All right, welcome back, everybody, to Horrible Games to the Undead. We are up next with Fuzzy Games playing Hollow Knight. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to him. Good luck, Fuzzy, and yeah, let's beat up that knight.
Alright, welcome everyone. My name is Fuzzy Games, and I will be running Hollow Knight all skills. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it on the count of 3, ending in go. So 3, 2, 1, go. So Hollow Knight is a bug-themed Metroidvania where you play as a little lost void person. Little lost vessel. He's trying to find his way, and before we get too deep into it, we've got our first trick. I'll finish my storytelling in a minute, but that was an inventory drop. Being able to do that in midair is only available in patches before the current patch, so we play on a specific patch that allows it. It also allows other tricks like lever skips and things like that, which we'll show off later in the run. But yeah, this little fellow has just arrived in Hollow Nest, and he is trying to find his way, figure out where he came from, and just kind of advance in the world. So we are going to make our way to the first city here with the most lovable character in the game, which I will get to shortly. But let's talk about what all skills is. So all skills means that I have to collect every nail art, every movement ability, and every spell in the game. Once I've done that, I have to go and beat the final boss, just as any percent would. So the beginning of this run is actually going to be very much like a lot of other categories. They all kind of start the same. Also, this is Elderbug. He is the friendliest person in the game. He waved at us and wanted to chat us up, but we are trying to do fast things, so we had to leave. But yeah, the beginning of this run will start about like pretty much any other run. There are a few abilities and spells that we have to pick up to be just minimally viable in the game. This is a long drop here, so it's nice to get an inventory drop there. So we're going to head to the first boss and the first spell coming up, which is going to be a handy-dandy fireball spell that we'll make a lot of use of. Okay. So yeah, this is the first area in the game, the Forgotten Crossroads, and all we're trying to really do is get through here to the first boss. Nothing really special here. So while we play through this, if there are any announcements, feel free to make those, and I'll just stop you when we get to the first boss.
Alright, no donations yet, but I do want to remind everybody that we are doing this for Child's Play. It is a wonderful organization charity that is dedicated to improving lives of children with toys and games. So definitely, you know, we all love our games, and you know what? Let's support the kids. So yeah, just take a look at that Tiltify page. Have some really cool stuff there, and every little bit helps.
Sweet. Yes, please support the cause. It is for charity, and we would love to help them out. So, tough year for everybody, what with all the world events. So, if you can find it in your heart to help charities, it's a good thing. Highly encourage it. So this is the first boss. This is the False Knight. Turns out he's just a tiny dude in gigantic armor. And he's not too tough. He just kind of gets you used to the controls for the game. But the interesting thing about this is that the creators of the game actually built in a way to where you don't have to fight him at all. And we're going to take advantage of that and just leave the fight. So he's just stomping around up there. We just ignored him. We're moving on. Normally, you would have to beat the False Knight in order to get the City Crest. And the City Crest would give you access to the City of Tears. But we're actually going to make use of another trick that's available in all versions of the game to get to the City of Tears. So we'll go over that in about 10 minutes when we get there.
You got time for a quick donation?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Thank you, Matt Girl, for that $20 donation saying, good luck on the run, Fuzzy. Thank you so much, Matt Girl. You are wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So here we are trapped in this area by our our new friend right outside there, and he gave us a spell and wants us to take care of a enemy problem that he has in here. So we're gonna do that. This new spell is our fireball, and if we get up close to the guy, you can see he closes up, so we have to stay a little bit away, make use of this ranged ability that we have to take him out. So a lot of the early game is just kind of teaching you how to do things, which is pretty convenient. A lot of arenas that are just structured to help you learn the controls and things like that. But yeah, so we got the first thing down. We are headed to the next place, which also has one of those boulders. And that's one of the things that's nice about Hollow Knight, is it kind of uses similar themes to lead you a little bit in the early game, but then it sets you loose. There is so much to explore in the game, and we're kind of just building up soul here so that we can use our spells to take out some things at the beginning. So this guy we can take out with one shot because that's a thing on this patch. If you try it on current patch, you'll have to fire a bunch of fireballs at him. But what we do there is we just kind of walk over, get him to open up so that he'll be vulnerable, and then we walk off screen so that when we fire the fireball, it kind of lingers inside his hitbox for a while and takes him out in one hit. A lot of people say this is their favorite area of the game just because of how it visually looks. And while it's not my favorite, I do have to say that this game is just absolutely stunning to both look at and listen to. The music is extremely well done.
So you say this one isn't necessarily your favorite section. Which one is?
I would have to say probably the City of Tears.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So we tried to go for a fireball skip there. It's a little precise. We're going to go for the bug back up here instead. And the reason why we do that is because normally you'd see Hornet go over there and you wouldn't have any way to go except down. And you would kind of have to wander through Green Path some. And that loses a bunch of time. So we just kind of make use of the path that she made to be able to go up here. And we got the second fireball skip. Retribution. But get out of the way. There we go. But yeah, City of Tears is probably my favorite area. It's really calm and peaceful to look at. And it just has some amazing piano music in it. I love it a lot. So So that's our first mini boss of Green Path. That is the Moss Knight. We're gonna have to fight a couple more of them, and we're gonna make sure that we just grab a little bit of safety here because we are doing a marathon. So, but every time I hit an enemy, I get soul, and we use that soul for spells. We use that soul for healing as well. It's just handy to try to build soul along the way whenever we can. Also, you hear a bunch of noises up there. That is our friend Zote, who is trapped and kind of wants us to rescue him, but we're not going to. Nobody really likes Zote, so we'll just leave him to die.
Yeah, thankfully this is one of the few categories that he runs that we don't have to deal with him too much. And bouncing off of that, Fuzzy, how many categories of this game do you run?
Currently, as far as major categories go, I run 2, which is all skills and 112. So 112 is the full completion category, and it's a lot of fun. You get to just kind of explore the entire game, which is really nice. But there are also a few meme categories that are fun to do, so there are categories for everyone, and if you are interested at all in running Hollow Knight, I would definitely check out the Discord. Lots of friendly help there, so. Hornets being a little friendly, that's okay. There we go. And we got her knocked up on the ledge there. Nice. Alright, so this is the dash ability. It's really convenient. And we will be able to make use of it to get to the next area of the game. And actually, I was messing around with settings to get the layout working, and I realized that I changed the language back so that I could read what the options were. So we're going to change that back now. And that's a perfect segue into why did I change the language. So whenever we play on English, you can notice that the text is kind of, it moves at a pace that you can read, and you can't really mash it too fast and that type of thing. It turns out that if you switch it to Chinese, for some reason you can mash text pretty much instantly, and that's really convenient and fast, so we switch it to Chinese. It also has Japanese as an option, which is typically a fast language for a lot of speed games, but in this case Chinese is superior because of the fast mashing through text boxes. So this is Fungal Waste. This is going to lead us to the next area, which is the Mantis Village that has our next movement ability. And the beginning, like I said, the beginning of the game is always getting the first few things that just give us enough movement to be able to pretty much go everywhere else. So we have a basic damage spell. We have a dash now, which helps us move a little bit faster. The only thing that we're missing is the ability to climb walls a little bit, and that's what we're going to get next. So we are headed to Mantis Village to do that. We've got a trick coming up shortly that is going to help us get to Mantis Village a little easier. And this trick is also easier on this patch, which is really nice. So.
Can you say that it's going to blow their mind?
Oh, God.
Now, you were talking about different patches. Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Right after this trick.
Yep, after the trick.
There we go. So that's an explosion pogo. Basically what we have to do is we have to pogo off of the projectile and then pogo off of the explosion from the projectile. So it's a little tricky. Alright. And now we got the Mantis Claw. Unfortunately, I switched it away from English, so you can't read what it does, but it lets us jump off the walls, which is really convenient. So, yeah, we're going to make a lot of use of that as well. But, yeah, I talked some about the differences between patches earlier. The current patch that we're on allows us to do lever skips. It allows us to do inventory drops anywhere, whereas on current patch it's a frame perfect trick coming off of a ledge. In addition, they made some changes in the current patch to make the final boss do a little bit more damage with some of his attacks, and also getting more favorable cycles on one of the bosses that we'll get to in a minute is a little bit harder. So we're gonna grab some soul here. We got another mini boss to fight here, and we'll be picking up the one and only charm that we get in the game, which is going to be one of the best charms in the game. It boosts our spell power, and that is the Shaman Stone. So Gruzmon goes down that quick, no problem. Also, while we're over here to get Shaman Stone, we'll be taking an intentional death, and that will lead up to the trick that we're going to use to get to the City of Tears. So we're going to pop in here, talk to Giggles here, and buy the only charm that we buy in the entire game, but it's so worthwhile, we just have to pick it up. So we're going to pop out here and grab this bench. And one thing you might have noticed by now is that I make use of save and quit quite a bit. And that's because any benches that we take, with the exception of some safety strats, are going to be intentional benching to try to save and quit back to later. And it kind of makes up for the fact that we don't have a ton of fast travel, because the money is pretty tight in this route. So there we go. I should explain what that is as well. So that was a shade skip. And basically you're not supposed to be able to reach that entrance. That's supposed to be a back entrance coming from this direction. What we do is we take advantage of the fact that when you die, a ghost form of yourself is put in the place where you died, and it'll even come towards you and attack you. So we take advantage of that. I do a single hit to it because it takes 2 hits to knock it out, so I go ahead and set it up with 1 hit, and then with the second hit I just kind of pogo off the top of it, and it lets us get up to a little bit higher there so we can reach that entrance. And that's why we don't need the City Crest and don't need to beat False Knight. So that obviously saves a bunch of time over having to fight False Knight. And here I'm trying to get, next little bit, I'm going to be trying to get a certain amount of Geo here. And that's because our first nail art, we're going to have to pay a lot of money for. So we're going to try to build up as close to 800 Geo as we can. And 290 so far is pretty good. It also helps that there is a glowing philanthropist that just happens to be in this city as well. We're gonna go find his secret room in his home and shake him down for some money.
You got a second for me?
Yeah, let's go.
Alright, so no other donations in yet, but I would like to point out to everybody that we have increased our donation goal because we kind of just like blasted the other one out of the water. So the new goal is to actually pass our last marathon, so we're aiming for $420. Let's get to it by the end of the marathon, guys. I know we can do it.
Oh, yes. Well, congrats on hitting that milestone too. That's awesome. We're only on like what, day 2 of the marathon?
Yeah, we're on day 2. Let
Pretty
me tell
good.
you, it's a wonderful community that we have here. All the wonderful runners and everybody working on it. Just y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Heck yeah. So yeah, like I said, we were trying to get to 800 geo. We're pretty close. We got 770. We'll be able to farm up a few bugs here, which will help quite a bit. They drop around 15 geo or so, so we'll only have to kill a few of them. There we go. That should be plenty. All right. And yeah, we basically save and quit after the gorgeous husk that we just defeated for a bunch of money. That sends us back to the bench. We're also not going to take any benches here because we got to come all the way out here to the place aptly named Kingdom's Edge, because it is very out of the way of everything else. So we're going to come all the way out here and buy this one nail art, this dash slash, and yeah, then we're going to save and quit back and go do other City of Tears stuff. And I'll actually get to show off the first couple lever skips as well shortly. So we got a handful of tricks coming up in the next area in City of Tears, and that's because the game kind of has a certain progression in mind that it wants you to do. Like, it wants you to beat False Knight to get the City Crest. It wants you to complete the Soul Sanctum, which is up at the top of City of Tears. It wants you to complete that without, you know, too many abilities to keep it pretty challenging. And then it wants you to go down and get a double jump before you go to the area that we're going to go to right now. But we're going to skip all of that and just do it early. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do a Spire Pogo. So I'm going to bounce off of that object in the background, and we're up. And then next, I'm supposed to go around the room to hit that lever. But it turns out we can just hit it through the floor. So we can skip basically this entire room. So, yeah. And then we'll be back to that room shortly. I didn't really go into much of the completion criteria for the game, but basically to beat the game, we have to defeat the final boss, who is sealed away behind 3 dreamers. And dreamers are just people that we have to go to and interact with them in their dreams with a special item that we'll get soon. So, and I will talk more about that item when we get it. But here we're going to make use of another lever skip, and that's going to give us the opportunity to get an ability way earlier than we're supposed to be able to. And it is a very strong ability. We make a lot of use of it here. So this is going to be the Shade Soul, and what it does is it powers up our Fireball. So you notice the only attacking spell I have is the Fireball. The only charm that I bought is a charm that powers up spells. And the next ability that I got also powers up the Fireball. So right now we have a really powerful Fireball. And we're going to make a lot of use of it against the boss coming up here in Soul Sanctum. Also, there's a big room up here that you're supposed to go through and dodge a bunch of enemies to hit a lever. We're just gonna dash that through the wall, and we don't have to do any of that as well. Okay, good Soul Warrior fight. So that was the mini boss of this area, and from here we have to contend with a couple tiny teleporting boys. We're gonna try to get them to leave us alone a little bit, build some soul on the way. And here's another giant room where we would normally have to deal with a bunch of teleporty boys like that one. But we just dash that lever through the door, and no problem, we can just skip it entirely. And here we are at the boss of Soul Sanctum. He's just basically a bigger version of those teleporting guys. So we'll deal with him pretty handily. Unfortunately, you can't do any of those lever skips on current patch, so you do have to do those rooms, and they're fairly dangerous to do as well. Also there, you noticed we had a couple of soul vials outside, soul jars, I guess, that we didn't get, and the reason why is because we were waiting until we used a little soul on a fireball to collect it from inside the arena, and that lets us take down the Soul Master pretty quick. Reminder, the game doesn't expect us to have Shade Soul at this point, so the fact that we're here with Shade Soul is we're kind of overpowering the boss of Soul Sanctum right now. Also, this guy gives us a handy dandy spell, which is really nice. So we'll get that shortly. He just rages against the floor a couple times first. So this spell will give us access to the next area of the game, which also has a movement ability that we'll want. This spell is called the Desolate Dive. What it does is it lets us do a downward attack, and if there are any floors that can be crumbled, the spell also lets us do that. So, as the game typically does, it throws you in a room where it demonstrates that, and we dash through these glass areas. And normally, again, you would have to go around this giant room, but we're going to dash against that lever as well, using our handy dandy dash slash that we picked up a little earlier in the game. And we're out, and we skip that room as well. So we're going to do some backtracking through Soul Sanctum, so if there are any announcements, feel free to go ahead and cover those.
No announcements just yet, but I do want to remind people that we are playing for Child's Play, a wonderful charity that, really does focus on getting kids, games and all that good stuff to make their time just a little bit easier. So we are currently sitting at $120, and our new goal is $420. So every little bit helps, and yeah. Thank you guys so much just for being here and supporting the cause.
Awesome. Doing great. I heard something crazy would happen at 1,000 too. I don't know. We should probably push for that.
I'm pretty sure that our lovely host might cry on that. Like, yeah. good ugly crying, but
Yeah, exactly. $1,000 for tears. I mean, that there are no better deals on the internet right now.
That is very true.
It's practically a Cyber Monday deal.
On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. So I caught myself talking here. I'm a little short on Geo, so there we go. So we have to get 300 Geo by this point to be able to get the King Station Stag. And so I talked a little bit about how we use benches to be able to save and quit back to places. And we did take a bench up there in the spire right before we left. That bench is also intentional to be able to save and quit back to there later. So we're going to go up here and complete an entire area and get a whole other set of skills. And then we're going to come back and save and quit back to that. But first, we're going to get the Stag Station. So this is the game's form of fast travel, and there are stags all over Hollow Nest. We don't get all of them. We get probably about 5 of them. And the ones we get, we make a lot of use of. So that's one of the few, but we make sure that we have enough Geo to collect that. And I did talk a little bit about how tight the Geo is. Geo being the money, again, for a reminder. So we're very deliberate about where we try to grind geo and also the things that we spend geo on. So you'll notice that if you played the game casually, you'll notice that we don't get the lantern. The lantern is the item that lets you see in the dark. So the lantern also costs 1800 geo, which is very difficult for us to build up over the course of this run while also being able to afford everything else. So we skip it, and what that means is we have a few dark rooms coming up that we have to do completely in the dark because we can't afford the lantern. There's actually one at the end of this area, which is Crystal Peaks. I enjoy this area a lot. It's got some cool platforming elements. So, but it's also very dangerous. So there might be some times where I focus just a tiny bit to get through some tense areas. But the gist of this is that we just basically go straight up to climb all the way to the top of this area of the game, and then we go all the way back down to get a movement ability. This room has a precise cycle there, so that we can make use of that enemy and pogo off of him. And yeah, here we are at the top of Crystal Peaks. And this is the intended way to progress through it. It's kind of a big loop. There is a safety bench here as well, leading up to, you know, some difficult stuff. But we don't get to take that because, again, we are trying to carry a bench that we had, that we have in Watcher Spire. And that allows us to save and quit back once we're done with everything here. So we're gonna try to get a damageless cycle here. Just gotta time it so that all the lasers are gone, and that went fine. And here we go, one of the best movement abilities in the game. This is the Crystal Heart. And just like the image shows, we can just plunge face first horizontally into whatever part of the room we want to with a giant horizontal dash. And we make a lot of use of this. This ability opens up a lot of different areas, and in any percent it's pretty much pivotal for skipping a lot of normally required things as well. So I'm gonna take a heal here because marathon. And we gotta dodge a few mashers here. They're not very friendly. They're not friendly. Okay, so this is the dark room. Gonna focus just a little bit. There we go. No problem. So that's probably one of the few barriers that people have to learning all skills is those dark rooms do take a little bit of practice. And for that, you kind of just have to work with whatever movements work for you. There are some people that like to use the crystal dash, which is very helpful. But if you get used to the dash pattern, it's not so bad. There are lots of spikes around here. I'm going to try to be a little careful. And we also have a trick coming up here where I can skip the animation. So I'll show that off. So I hit the crystal that gives me the ability 7 times because I know it'll break on 8 hits. And then I use a dash slash for the final hit, which locks me in the dash slash animation. And I death respawn during the animation of grabbing the ability, which means I can just move around freely while I do that, so I don't have to wait on it. That too is a 1-2-2-1 only trick, so you can't do that on current patch either. But there is another strat where you can lure one of the flies that was there up to the area right above where you collect the ability. And those little guys like to shoot at you a lot, so they just kind of knock you out of that animation with damage, and that works too. So here, there was a pivotal moment where we got to see the 3 Dreamers, and we're going to go ahead and dash off the edge here because it is faster to do that to get this glowing fellow to show up and give us some ability or some platforms to make our way across. And normally we would have to climb across, but we can just jump up here and C-dash across basically most of it. Just gotta make sure we stick the landing there. And this glowing friend gives us a very required item, very important item, called the Dream Nail. So the Dream Nail is what lets us, once we use the Dream Nail, we can go into the Dreamer's dreams and go interact with them and free the seal that they hold on the final boss's entryway.
So are you saying that you're like the Freddy Krueger of the bug world?
Basically. I don't want to spoil the ending of the game, or the multiple endings of the game, rather, because there are multiple. But the main character, I don't believe it's necessarily a good protagonist. I think it might be a little evil. But again, not spoiling it, you should definitely play the game for yourself. So here we come to the first section that has a Dreamer, and it is guarded by a couple of roly boys that anyone who's played the game casually probably remembers, because these are some of the toughest bosses casually. And we're going to try to make quick use of them with this D-Dark ability that we have. So you'll notice I'm doing that ability inside its hitbox, and that's to hit it the maximum 3 times that D-Dark hits for. But also, whenever I use D-Dark, I get, which is Descending Dark rather, I get invulnerability frames. So I can just dash outside of their hitbox, and I don't really have to worry about it. So one of the other abilities of the Dream Nail is that you can use it to build soul, which I do whenever these guys spawn in. Go ahead and take this one out. There we go. Oh, this one's being stubborn. He wants to play, I understand. There we go. But yeah, Descending Dark, once we get it, it's one of the most broken abilities in the game. It does a higher damage than our Fireball does, and it also gives us a huge amount of invulnerability frames, which unfortunately they changed in the current patch to be fewer invulnerability frames, which is probably for the best, honestly. But with that spell, the Watcher Knights go down pretty quick. And there are a couple other places where we'll make great use of that D-Dark ability as well. So we're going to make this climb up here to the Dreamer, who's laying right here. Use our Dream Nail to hop into his head and murder him, I guess. Yeah, just making sure he's still here. Okay. Oh god. There we go. Also, for the record, this game does not drop inputs ever. Just saying. So, that's where it plays a nice little cutscene showing us that we defeated the Dreamer. 1 seal from the door is gone. 2 more seals to go. And, yeah. Once we break all 3 seals on that door leads to the final boss. So, for anybody who runs the game or is at least familiar with all skills, This is going to be the first interesting part of the run, because normally people would go to Yzma's tier here, which requires a couple of acid skips that are a little tricky. But it turns out that if you reroute things a little bit to get a double jump, it doesn't lose that much time, and that's the route that we're going to do right now. So having a double jump, which I'll be able to show off how this makes the trick easier once we get there, but having a double jump just is generally helpful. So we're going to make some good use of inventory drops here, because this is a nice vertical area that we get to fall through. And we are headed into the Ancient Basin. And there aren't really a lot of tricks coming up here, so if there are any announcements to read, please feel free.
No announcements yet, but I do want to remind people, I know I'm going to say this a lot, that we are supporting Child's Play. So !donate will actually get you the link to that Twitch page, or not, that Tiltify page, I should say. And yeah, go check it out. Check out that fundraiser, and every little bit helps.
Oh yes, please support the charity. So yeah, again, we grabbed a bench. This one is intentional. Ancient Basin makes a big loop, and at the end of it is a boss and a ability that we want. Since we're grabbing all the movement abilities, nail arts, and spells in the game, we have to also get that one as well. So we got to make our way through this area that has these giant boys that like to shoot at us. We're going to try to avoid them as best as we can, but they're just kind of little machine guns. You got to do what you got to do. There we go. Oh, okay. Didn't think he would hit me there, but that's okay. All right. So this fight's a little bit dangerous at this health too, so we're gonna try to be a little conservative during this. And we're not just slashing these yellow boys because it's convenient while we wait on the boss to show up. It actually makes him spawn faster because he doesn't have to wait for all of them to jump into his brain. So, and we take advantage of fireball doubles there because of his distance. So. Not too bad. But yeah, so we take down the broken vessel, who's probably a relative of ours, but he seemed evil, you know, and potentially infected. We're just helping him out. He probably wasn't really living a happy life.
I mean, that's just sibling mentality.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see my broken vessel in pain anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we got the Monarch Wings, which are our double jump ability, and that's really convenient for a lot of things. Also gives us access to a number of areas that we wouldn't normally have access to, even though we're going to use it objectively very little. But we're back at our save and quit bench, and now we're going to loot back and grab that Yzma's tier that we were talking about a little while ago. So Monarch Wings is our double jump movement ability. Yzma's tier is a movement ability that allows us to move around in acid, which is going to be really helpful when we go for the second Dreamer. Because it turns out the entrance to that is behind acid. And that's actually how the game intends for you to get to that Dreamer. We'll also have to do it to get to the second Hornet fight, Spoilers if you didn't know there was a second Hornet fight. There is. And if you're wondering who Hornet was, and you're just watching this for the first time, Hornet is the person that was dressed in red that had a nail on a string that was attacking us. So we're going to make our way back down here. Nice little inventory drops. And here we've got to get in this tunnel, which is tricky. There we go. Then we're just going to C-dash through. Normally the game expects you to get a small key and go into the Royal Waterways area, which is where that spike tunnel comes from. That'll work. And this is the acid skip that we got the wings for, because we can just do that. And it's super convenient compared to the other one at only a nominal time loss. So we got the Ease Mysteria ability. We are just going to save and quit out of here. Again, we took a bench at King Station so that we can kind of get back on track. This is where this route and the normal all skills route coincide. Because at this point, the normal route would have been coming back from Monarch Wings. And yeah, we're going to go fight the second Hornet fight, which is a little dangerous. So I'm definitely going to take a marathon safety for this fight. Hornet at the beginning is not too tricky after you fought her a couple times. But this Hornet fight, she has a lot of new attacks. She is a lot faster. And just generally a pain, so so we're gonna try to deal with her as best as we can. But yeah, while we make our way back through Kingdom's Edge to get to this fight, if there are any donations or announcements that you'd like to make, feel free.
Oh man, perfect timing. Thank you so much to Wellendor for that $20 donation saying, "Here we go."
Oh,
thank you so much, Wellendor.
Thanks, Welly. I appreciate you. And yes, for everyone watching, thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting a good cause. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I get to contribute to something that helps to support the great cause, and I'm glad that you get to be here to do the same. So, this is Hornet 2. She is fast. Okay. Oh, she's being friendly too. In case you haven't caught it, being friendly is not necessarily a good thing. But we're gonna try to calm her down a little bit. Ooh, nice. Ooh. Okay. Please stop doing that. That'll work. There we go. Okay, that was a pretty good Hornet fight. She just has so many attacks that it honestly takes quite a bit of focus to keep up with her attacks. One of the best things you can do against her is kind of keep your distance a little bit so that you can see how she's choreographing the attacks that she's going to do and then react to them. But this is the King's brand. Remember that symbol that you see on the screen that looks like a fork because we're going to see it not too long from now. That King's brand is actually the key to a door that blocks the last two abilities that we'll be picking up. So we will get to see that soon. But now we're just going to kind of escape from Kingdom's Edge. The reason why we can't make use of the bench that we used in King Station is because the game has a few areas that do hard saves. So whenever you visit a certain area or trigger a certain event, sometimes it will result in a hard save. And if you were to save and quit out of there from there, you would just end up back at that hard save spot. So the Hornet 2 King's Brand area there is one of those hard save spots. So we do have to run all the way back here. And yeah, so now we're going to run up and grab another out of the way ability, which is another nail art that we need to complete the game. And sadly, other than the lever skips, you don't really get to see a lot of the nail arts in this run. Other runs like some of the longer categories, or some of the categories that maybe don't get as much powerful spell stuff, will showcase more of the nail arts. But this category has so much powerful DPS from spells alone that it doesn't really need to use hardly any of the nail arts, except when doing sequence breaks. So we're back at where we started the game, with a nice little hidden entrance that leads to a completely different area of the game. So if you were playing through the game casually and you found that on your own, congrats. That's pretty awesome. So we're gonna pop over here, talk to this fellow. He's just chilling out in his hut. He gets really excited for some reason, and then teaches us a nail art. So this is the Cyclone Slash. In current patch, it actually has a decent amount of use, because whenever you use it in midair, it's one of the few things that will try to drag you back to the ground. So for the duration of using Cyclone Slash, it's actually also a fast fall. And since you can't do inventory drops on current patch just whenever you want, it's pretty helpful for that. It also hits like 8 times or something in a row, which is really nice if you connect with all the hits. Possibly more. Don't quote me on that. So we're just gonna make our way back through the now infected crossroads, which you can tell looks like our buddy Broken Vessel. Apparently it got to him first. But we don't have to stay here for long, because we are just gonna make use of this handy dandy ability that we got to run in acid to get down to Fog Canyon. Fog Canyon is the area of the game where we can fight the second Dreamer that is going to be inside the archives. So we'll come up on that shortly. We're gonna dodge all these jellyfish though. They the big ones, especially if you hit them, they like to come back at you and explode, and that's really bad. Because they also do 2 masks of damage, and I just happen to be at 2 masks, so we're gonna try to avoid that. But here's a handy dandy bench right before the Dreamer. Always helpful to do that. Not all of the Dreamers have bosses in front of them, gating them, but the first 2 definitely do. The third one actually just has an entire area in front of it gating it, so that's pretty handy. So this is everyone's favorite giant jellyfish, Umu. He is the boss guarding the Dreamer, so we gotta take him out. And we are doing a specific pattern here to try to line him up for some fireball doubles, because he'll always follow to where we are. There we go. So we're going to build a little bit of soul off of him while we try to avoid his attacks a little. And we'll get a 3rd phase. That'll be okay. So it's very tight to get a 1 cycle Umu. It's pretty comfy to do a 2 cycle Umu, but Looks like we're gonna get a 3 cycle, which is not too bad. There we go. And that is the fellow that was blocking the way to the second Dreamer. So we're just gonna go ahead and hop on in here, jump in their dreams, and murder them. Also, this guy has to use his mask powers to defog the tank. I'm not really sure why. But he made it to where we can damage Umu, so I guess I can't really be too picky. I'll let him do his fancy mask magic. Also, all the Dreamers have dangling legs. Not really sure why. But they're really handy for hitting them from the ground, so there you go. So from here, we're actually pretty much almost done. We have one nail ability, one nail art that we have to pick up. And we have 3 spells or 2 spells and 1 movement ability. But the 2 spells are also completely related to each other. Because we get the spell, and then right after that, we get the upgraded version of that same spell. Which then ends up being our most powerful DPS in the game. So, sadly, we won't have as much of a use for D-Dark after that, although it's still handy to just stay invulnerable. Because having iframes is always a good thing. So we're going to grab this bench up here. Again, thing about hard saves. Because we went to that Dreamer, our hard save was at that Dreamer. So we want to make sure that we save at that bench, because we got to run way away to get this nail art. It's actually in a completely different section of the game, and casually, you're probably supposed to grab the Green Path Stag to be able to get back to it more easily. But since we are so strapped for cash, we just have to take the scenic route and run all the way back. So we'll try to do that without losing too much time. Tight jump. Oh, and in case you haven't noticed by now, you can pogo off of almost anything with the nail, and it's really convenient. A lot of the background objects you can pogo off of as well. And it just kind of gives you a lot of movement options that you might not have in a lot of other platformers and or Metroidvanias. Also, don't dash into this room on current patch, because that first flying enemy is on a different cycle. So you definitely don't want to chance getting hit by him. We're just going to make it through this super safe area that has just a small number of spikes. And this is a room where you would normally have to go around the left side and skip a bunch of spikes and go through some tiny corridors. But with a nice little double jump there, we can just skip all of that. Come say hi to this painting fella and grab his Great Slash ability. Nail art, excuse me. So 2 spells and 1 movement ability to go, and 1 Dreamer. Let's not forget that. After we grab this spell, we will actually be headed to grab the 3rd Dreamer. And then the last thing we'll do is stop by the area that is unlocked by the King's Brand. I don't want to spoil what it is, but it is very relevant to the story. So definitely stick around for that. Even though I haven't shown any of the story, but you know. We don't have time for lore. We have to go fast. So we're going to make our way up here to this mound that has a lot of mosquitoes in it. I don't know why there are so many mosquitoes in this one area, but there are, and we have to fight them in order to unlock this gate. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of all those. Not too shabby. And we're going to go ahead and take a heal here for safety. Whenever we grab spells, typically the spell will fill up our soul tank like it did just then. So if we have any spare soul at this point, it's usually nice to just go ahead and take a heal. And this next area that's coming up is fairly dangerous. There's an arena with a couple of powerful enemies in it. And we've also got to do another set of dark rooms. So we're just going to play it a little safe here. Normally the game would expect you to walk back and around, but we make use of a dash slash there to just open up the gate. And we are into Queen's Garden. Queen's Gardens is one of the main ways into the next area, which is called Deep Nest. Which is where our next streamer resides. So we're going to take these guys out with super powerful spells. And then we're going to fall on that spike to take advantage of the fact that the loading zone for that lever actually extends just a little bit taller than that spike. So it allows us to skip that entire horizontal room just by landing somewhat precisely on that spike and triggering a respawn from there. Again, that is also not available on the current patch. So we'll grab a little soul here. There you go. Cool. Just making sure that we have a little bit just in case we need to take a heal, but we're going to try not to. Alright, second dark room. There are a lot of spiders in here. There's one that usually likes to hit me there. He's chasing me, but he didn't get there, thankfully. They're real friendly, obviously, and they do damage as well, so we dodged that one too. So we've got 3 dark rooms to go through. This is objectively the easiest one. We just kind of have to know where to jump there, and then we C-dash out. This one is a little tricky. There is an enemy up there that likes to hit me, as he just did. And then, yeah, we are through. So we are at the distant village area. And if you've ever seen an any percent speedrun of Hollow Knight, you'll know that you would normally hop on that bench and, spoilers, it's a trap. And it spawns you inside this area where you have to just go through a whole lot of stuff to get to the top of it and fight a bunch of enemies and all that thing. But we take the back entrance there because we have wings, and we're just going to run up here and fire at this guy to get him out of the way. And third dreamer. So while we backtrack out of here, if there are any announcements or donations, please feel free.
Alright, so no donations, but it does look like we have another reward that we're working on unlocking. It's to upgrade to 100% in Castlevania Legends. So instead of doing any percent, they'll increase it to 100.
Oh boy. That's pretty cool that they can fit a swap from any percent to 100% in the same estimate. Alright, so Hornet is lamenting the fact that we kind of just killed her mother. Spoilers. It's real unfortunate, but we are on a mission to finish the game, so can't really linger there. We're gonna hop back through that crumble floor, and we'll get the final stag that we get for the game, and that is up here for 250 geo. We thankfully came into the beast den area where the dreamer was with plenty of geo, so didn't have to worry about it at all. But this gives us a convenient way back out. Since we did have to come through a bunch of dark rooms, it would have been pretty annoying to go back through those dark rooms, but instead we can just stag back to Hidden Station, which just happens to be right next to where we need to go to get our last our last spell and our last movement ability. So we're gonna hop down here and weave our way around to this giant door that looks like a fork on the front. That just happens to be the door that is opened by the King's Brand, and with a couple of precise lineups here, we're going to inventory drop through the whole thing and go get our movement ability. This area is pretty dangerous too. There are some enemies coming up that deal 2 damage to you each, and they like to swarm you a lot, so we're gonna be a little careful here. Yeah, they just kind of blocked me there. I couldn't really avoid that. But I figured we could face tank it, so no problem. So we have to run up there and cut on the lighthouse there, and that lets us cross this ocean without taking damage from these fellows that like to wave their arms in the air. So this is where we'd get a cutscene for the ability, but we're gonna save and quit out to skip that cutscene. And so while you're watching the marathon run, you're watching it in real time as far as timing. But for Hollow Knight runs, they are timed by in-game time, and we use a timer that is loadless. It's also an auto splitter, so that's why there are a lot of places where instead of just waiting on something, we'll just go ahead and save and quit out. That's because the timer stops once we do. So we do a little backtrack from here, and we are going to go get the final spell in the game, and it happens to be the most powerful one. And it's got a very small puzzle to figuring out how to get it, but once you see it once, you will never forget it. So we look at the background. It looks like our Howling Wraith's ability right behind that platform, and so we use that and get our final spell, which is the Abyss Shriek. Abyss Shriek is an upgraded Howling Wraiths, and it does a lot of damage. We'll actually get to show it off a little bit in this Hollow Knight fight that's coming up. But first, we have to go all the way back out, and that involves also climbing all the way back out of the Abyss. So this is probably one of the more technical climbs in the game. It's pretty fun to watch. Pretty fun to do sometimes. But yeah, we have to, all that space that we fell inventory dropped through before, we have to now climb back out of. So we're gonna make our way on up, and while we do that, I'm also trying to build soul off these enemies. I want to go into the final boss fight with full soul. That would just make my life a whole lot easier. So we're just gonna kind of tap them with our nail along the way, get them to give us some soul. That'll work. And we're back out. Turns out that the final boss was so convenient. They just happen to be right by the very beginning of the game, which we can stag back to. So we're gonna head on over there and do that. And yeah, so we're coming up on the end. Since I'll probably have to talk through a little bit of the final fight, if there are any announcements or anything, feel free to do that now.
Alright, no announcements yet. Just gonna remind everybody about the charity we are, going for, which is Child's Play. Just making sure that we get toys and games to the kids who, they can really use it in this situation, making, their times just a little bit easier.
Heck yeah. Yes, please support the charity. It is for great things. Supporting children, always a noble cause. So here, we don't bother taking a bench because we get an automatic bench there right inside the black egg. Also, whenever there's that pause coming up on the final boss, it's always a little nerve-wracking because the game can actually soft lock there. It's pretty rare. I think it's more common on current patch, but always like to make sure it's going to behave. So this is the final boss. This is the Hollow Knight. Spoilers, you're not the Hollow Knight. But we're going to go ahead and start dealing a lot of damage to him here with Shriek. He just kind of moved out of the way, so not being super helpful. Okay, so every time he shrieks, he is going to a second phase of the fight. So in the first and second phases, he attacks pretty normally, but we're going to try to get him to the third phase pretty soon. There we go. So third shriek means he is in the final phase. Or third phase, excuse me. Not final phase. We're not there yet. So we'll grab a little bit of health here. Just to make sure that we finish this out with no problem. Also, while he's stabbing himself there, we can't damage him. So we might as well just go ahead and do healing or whatever. It's a very convenient way to grab soul. There we go. So, time will be when the final cutscene starts. So since it's hard to pick out because the screen will be completely black, I'll just call it out when we get there. But everything will fade to black, the final cutscene will start, and then I'll call time. And that is time. So I'll let y'all enjoy the ending, but thank you so much for hanging out and letting me entertain you with Hollow Knight. All Skills is a super approachable category, so if you're looking out to start the game, either start with All Skills or any %. Again, if you're interested in Hollow Knight speedrunning, go check out the Hollow Knight Discord. You'll be able to find it on the speedrun.com page for Hollow Knight. And yeah, please continue to support the charity, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fuzzy, for that awesome run. Definitely some awesome fights in there. A lot of good knowledge that you dropped on us. Thank you guys so much for coming in and hanging out. I believe that was our last run of the day. But before you guys go, remember !donate. We'll get you that Tiltify link. You can definitely take a look at it, the charity that we are supporting. Any last things that you want to say before we head on off there, Fuzzy?
No, just thank you again for letting me contribute to the marathon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for coming around. We couldn't do it without you. And yeah, we will be back again tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for coming out.
Hey guys, just a little outro for you guys for the day. We are ending stream, of course. I will be rating Dark Shock's a previous runner, so stick around and go hang out with him. He is currently playing through Mana Now, if you guys want to go watch that. So, thank you guys all for all the donations for today. Hopefully, you guys all appear here tomorrow. So, thank you guys so much, and see you later.